So in the last session, I think we were discussing about profile. We have gone through one profile and we have discussed the permissions which we can manage under profile. So object level permissions, field level permissions, page layout, classes, visual force pages. Okay. Lots of permissions can be managed under profile. There are two types of profiles, standard profile and custom profile. Standard profiles are the inbuilt profiles and those profiles are not editable. So that's the reason whenever we create user, we should not assign standard profile to the user as a best practice. Okay. System doesn't stop you from assigning standard profile. You can always assign standard profile, but as those profiles are not editable, we should always create custom profile and should assign custom profile to user. Then we discuss one real-time scenario where we discuss the steps which we need to follow while setting up the security model. So first we need to have the entire company information. We need to understand how many departments are there, what kind of data they deal with, then the roles, what is the role hierarchy, employee information, all these details should be there. And after that, we need to decide on the licensing. Then we need to create profiles. So as we discussed in the last session, so there are three departments in company XYZ: sales department, marketing department, and support department. Every department need access to certain data. So that is the reason we will have to create custom profile for every department. So for sales department profile, for marketing department profile, and for support department profile. So now what we will do is, for one of the departments, we will try to create a custom profile. So let's say this sales department profile. So to create a profile, you can search for profiles in quick find search box. Under users, we have profile section. You can click on this. Then to create new profile, click on new profile button. Now, while creating new profile, you cannot create it from scratch. You need to clone the existing profile to create new profile. Why? Because in the last session, we have seen one profile which has a lot of permissions in it. So it's not at all possible to set up all the permissions from scratch in profile. It will be a very time consuming process, and most of the permissions in all the profiles remain same. They need to be enabled. We don't even have to touch them. So that is the reason when you have to create a new profile, you cannot create it from scratch. Instead, you need to select one of the existing profile to create new profile. Okay, so any profile you can select from here. But just make sure that whenever you select any existing profile, it will have user license associated with it, and the same license will be associated with the new profile you are going to create. So just make sure the user license which is associated with the profile is the one we are expecting, because if we have decided to assign Salesforce user license to a user, the profile which we can assign to a user also should belong to Salesforce user license. So this is the only thing you should make a note of. Okay, then specify the profile name here, and then click on save. So it created a new profile with this name we have specified. Okay, and the user license associated is Salesforce license, and it's a custom profile. Then rest of the permissions like page layout permissions and all, we can manage those as per our requirements. The important permissions on profile are always object level permissions and field level permissions. So for sales department profile, we are supposed to enable access to account, contact, and opportunity object. So we need to first have a look at object level permissions in this profile. Click on edit, and then we can just go down to object level permissions. So here it is. So as we cloned the existing profile, we use standard user profile itself, which we discussed in the last session. So whatever permissions were enabled in that profile, the same permissions are enabled over here as well, as we just cloned it. So now we just need to make sure that the sales department profile gives access to account, contact, and opportunity. So if there are any additional permissions, we can remove those. So address permission can be removed. Okay. All the additional permissions we have to remove from this profile. If you just remove read permission, it will remove rest of the permissions of the object. Okay. So I'm just trying to remove all the additional permissions. Okay. So while giving access to opportunity object, create, read, edit, delete is enabled. I will also enable view all permission on opportunity. But view all and modify all and all other permissions depend on requirement. Okay, here I have just mentioned that sales department profile need access to account, contact, and opportunity. So there can be additional details also which will be given to you as a requirement, saying that for account object you should be giving create and edit permission, not delete. So you will be getting all the details, all the requirement details when you have to work on anything. For now, we are just enabling read, create, edit, and delete. So for account, read, create, edit, delete, and we will enable modify all permission also, just so that we will understand how the modify all permission works. So account, opportunity, and we will have to give access to contact as well. So here it is on this. So for contact, I am enabling read, create, and edit only, not delete. So this is how you can update the permissions in profile once it is created. And later on also, uh, down the line, you may have change requests coming up where you may have to change the permissions in profile again. Any questions?
No.
I'll just save this profile. Okay. Now we will test this profile, how this profile will work and how the profile will be effective. For that, we can assign this profile to any user. So I have this user U1. Okay, so this user U1 we have. So consider this user. To this user, we will assign this sales department profile. We know now how to create a user. So I hope there is no doubt about it. So Salesforce license has been assigned to this user. So we can always change its profile to any other profile which is associated with Salesforce license. So the new profile which we created, sales department profile, this is also available over here. Let's save. This user is assigned. Okay, so I think this user has been assigned to few case records. That's the reason it is not allowing, to change the profile. Earlier, the profile which was assigned to this user was giving this user access to cases, but now as we are trying to change the profile, the system is not allowing. So let me just remove those cases from my system so that I will be able to change the profile. So just give me 2 minutes. Okay, so I just removed those that case record which was assigned to this user, and now I am able to save this user with sales department profile assigned to this user. Now what we will do is we will try to log in with this user. Now if you see, as the profile of this user U1 gives access to account, contact and opportunity, that is the reason if you see user is able to access accounts, contacts and opportunities tab. User is not able to see leads tab, campaigns, all those tabs are missing. So account, contacts and opportunities, these are the object tab. Rest of the tabs which you are seeing here, they are not exactly the object tabs, like dashboards, reports. These are the feature tabs, home tab. So you are able to, the user U1 is able to access only account, opportunity and contact. For account object, the profile gives create, read, edit, delete and modify all permission. So modify all permission means what? User can read, edit, delete and transfer ownership of all the account records within organization. Okay. So if you select all accounts here, all the existing account records for which another user, the user with which I have logged in here, which is the admin user. So this admin user is the owner of lots of account records, and this user U1 is able to access all those account records because modify all permission is enabled on account. And as modify all permission is enabled, even though this user is owner, user U1 can read, edit as well as delete these users records. Okay. So let's try to edit the record. Okay. So user U1 is able to edit the records of RP training user. Okay. User is able to obviously read the record that we can see. Let's try to delete this record. Okay. So user U1 is able to delete account records of RP training user. This is because modify all permission is enabled on account object. If modify all permission is not enabled, then one user cannot access the records of another user. So we have seen user can read, edit and delete the records. So we can also create new records because create permission is enabled on account. Yeah, and this, let's just save it. So user is able to create the record. So we have tested for account object the profile. On profile, whatever permissions we have enabled, accordingly user is able to perform those actions. Now let's check contact. For contact, what all permissions we have enabled. Sales department profile, right? For contact, create, read and edit is enabled. Okay. So when I select all contacts over here, it shows only two contact records to me because the owner is this U1 test user. So as view all or modify all permission is not enabled on the contact object, user U1 is not able to access the contact records of RP training user the way it was happening for account. For account, modify all permission was enabled, so U1 was able to read, edit and delete account records of RP training user. But for contact, it's not possible because the permission is not enabled for the contact. So user U1 cannot access contact records of any other user. He can access only his own contact records. And read, create and edit permission is enabled. So create is enabled, it means user can create new contact record. Okay. So user is able to create contact and then we can check edit permission also. See, user is able to create, read and edit. Let's check for delete. So if you see here, delete button is not available over here because user cannot delete contact records. Delete permission is not enabled for the contact object. If you see here. Okay. So this is the delete permission. It is not enabled for contact object. Are you following any questions?
No.
For opportunity, read, create, edit, delete, and view all permission is enabled. So let's see how user can work on opportunity object. So if I go to opportunities tab, for opportunity object, view all permission is enabled. It means user can read all the opportunities within the org. So when I select all opportunities, now it shows me all the opportunities which are owned by RP training user because view all permission is enabled. Okay. But if user U1 tries to access this opportunity and tries to edit or delete it, it should not be possible. So let me try to update the amount. So you can see I'm getting error insufficient access because U1 can only read other users record because of the view all permission but cannot edit other users record. That permission is not given by the profile to user U1. Same way, user U1 should not be able to delete RP training users records. I try to delete. Okay. So again, I'm getting the permission error. Okay. So this is how all the permissions works within the profile. Your profile has to give you the permissions, then only you can perform those actions, database operations on the records. If profile doesn't give you any specific permission, you cannot perform those operations on the records. I hope it is clear. Any questions?